3 more minutes. Ellie Nicholson, Jacob Morgan, see Zach Winters. So I can just avoid saying men's names, except one. Michaela Shook, Chloe Wilbur, Taylor Williams, Isabella Holt, Alexander Perez, that's everyone here. So online you can sign in by typing a comment that you're watching. Okay, we'll start in a few seconds. Gerardo?
Yeah.
Stu Cook. Okay, it's 8 o'clock. Remember, tomorrow morning I will email a home quiz for you to complete before midnight tomorrow night, and email that back to me using the CAM scanner to convert it to a PDF first. If you haven't done it before, I've heard that it's pretty easy, and we'll get practice on the quizzes so that when you take the tests, you'll be able to submit the tests the same way. When we have our tests, though, the tests will be Zoom proctored. I'll schedule a Zoom meeting, and then you'll join the meeting, and then I'll email the test to you, and then you can make a copy, or you can just write the problems down on paper, and then take pictures, use the CAM scanner to convert it to a PDF, and then email it back afterwards. It's worked pretty well. It worked pretty well for my summer class. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. We're in section 2.3 today. Okay, section 2.3, the topic is solve a formula for a specific variable. We'll look at a number of formulas. First, the definition of a mathematical formula. A mathematical formula is a general rule or principle that relates, so here's a typo already, that relates two or more quantities represented by variables in an equation. This formula is the formula for the perimeter of a rectangle. We use capital P to represent the perimeter. Capital L represents the length of the rectangle, and W is the width. And so the perimeter of the rectangle is P equals 2 times L plus 2 times W. So the perimeter is just the distance around the rectangle. And a rectangle is a quadrilateral. That means it has 4 sides, and 2 adjacent sides form a right angle. So just a simple example. Suppose you have a rectangle. Suppose the length is 8 inches and the width is 4 inches. Then what's the perimeter? In other words, what's the distance around the rectangle? Well, you can just add them up, 8 plus 4 plus 8 plus 4. So we get 24 inches. If you want to use the formula, you would just write 2 times 8 plus 2 times 4, and then do the arithmetic. Either way, we get 24 inches. And then you can wait until the very final result before you include the units. So that's often what we do. We don't include the units usually in the computation, and then when we get our final result, we include the units there. Okay, right triangles. Every right triangle has 1 right angle and 2 acute angles. The measure of a right angle is 90 degrees, and an acute angle has a measure that's between 0 degrees and 90 degrees. So there's all kinds of ways that we can write, or that we can draw a right triangle. But the one thing in common is that every right triangle has exactly 1 right angle. So 2 of the sides are perpendicular to each other. They form a right angle. So that one is the 90-degree angle, the right angle. And the other 2 angles are acute angles. They have to have measures that are between 0 degrees and 90 degrees. Okay, the Pythagorean theorem applies to every right triangle. This is the Pythagorean theorem. Well, the punchline to the Pythagorean theorem: c to the second equals a to the second plus b to the second. So a, b, and c, what are they? The length of the hypotenuse is represented by c, and the lengths of the 2 legs are a and b. So I'll sketch another right triangle. As long as there's 1 right angle, we can make the legs any length that we want. Okay, so the hypotenuse of a right triangle is the side that's opposite to the right angle. So the length of the hypotenuse here, we're just representing that by c. C represents the length. The other 2 sides are called legs of the right triangle, and their lengths are a and b. So it's true for every right triangle, if you square the length of the hypotenuse, so c squared, that's equal to the sum of the squares of the 2 legs, of the lengths of the 2 legs. So c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Okay, the next formula is the simple interest formula. Simple interest. Simple interest just means that the interest is not compounded. So what does that mean? If you compound interest, then after you're paid interest on your investment, then that interest earns interest. So it compounds. Simple interest doesn't do that. Simple interest, you only get paid interest on the amount that you invested in the first place. So this is the formula for simple interest. Capital I equals capital P times R times T. So in this formula, capital I represents the amount of simple interest. So in this country, we would measure it in dollars. Capital P is referred to as the principal. It's the amount of money that's invested in the first place. Lowercase r is the annual simple interest rate in decimal form. So normally you have an interest rate that's measured as a percent, but then when we use that in the formula, we convert it to the decimal equivalent. For example, 6% as a decimal number is 0.06. So if we earn simple interest at 6%, we would use R equal to 0.06 in the computation. You'll see an example of that a little bit later. And then T represents the number of years that the principal is invested. Okay, so R is the annual interest rate, so it makes sense that the amount of time is measured in years. Annual refers to yearly. Okay, let's look at some more formulas. We'll do several examples in a few minutes. Okay, the area of a triangle. The formula we use is capital A equals 1/2 times B times H. In this formula, capital A represents the area of a triangle, which is measured in square units. Lowercase b is the base of a triangle, and lowercase h is the height of a triangle. For any triangle, there are 3 sets of bases and heights. We'll just always use the one that's most convenient. So if we have a triangle, so pretend like this is a triangle. Those sides are supposed to be straight. So we can pick this horizontal side, we can represent this as the base. And if I use this side as the base, then the height is the length of the line segment that connects one vertex, the vertex that's opposite to the base, and also forms a right angle. So this vertical line segment, which is perpendicular to the base, is the height of the triangle. And so the area of that of that triangle, it doesn't have to be a right triangle. The area of any triangle is 1/2 times the base times the height. So an aside, I should have put in the area of a rectangle. Area of a rectangle. So if we have a rectangle, and if we use W for the width and L for the length, the area of a rectangle is just length times width. So A is equal to L times W. Okay, the next example of or the next formula is the sum of the angle measures in a triangle. For any triangle that's two-dimensional, if you add up the measures of the three angles, it has to add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so if the measures of the three angles of a triangle are A degrees, B degrees, and C degrees, then when you add A degrees plus B degrees plus C degrees, it has to add up to 180 degrees. So no matter what the triangle looks like, the sum of the angle measures has to be 180 degrees. So let's just do a little exercise on the side. Suppose we have a right angle, so 190-degree angle, and let's refer to this angle as A degrees and this angle as B degrees. So what must be true about the sum of A degrees and B degrees?
90 degrees.
Has to be 90 degrees, yeah, because this angle is 90 degrees. If we add all three of them, it's 180. So 90 degrees is taken by the right angle. So that means the sum of the two smaller angles is 90. And 90 plus 90 is 180. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, a couple of formulas involving the temperature. So in North America, there's more than two, but the two most common ways to measure temperature is using degrees Celsius, like they do in Canada, or degrees Fahrenheit, like they do in the United States. So let capital C be the temperature in degrees Celsius, also referred to as the centigrade scale, and let capital F be the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. So if you are a Canadian who comes to the United States and you're listening to the radio and they tell you what the temperature is in degrees Fahrenheit, then you might wonder, well, I wonder what that is in degrees Celsius. So you could use this formula. If you hear what the temperature is in degrees Fahrenheit, you would just replace capital F with that number and then do the arithmetic, and that would convert it to degrees Celsius. If you are a United States citizen and go to Canada, and if you hear on the news what the temperature is in degrees Celsius, and you're wondering, I wonder what that is in degrees Fahrenheit, you would use this formula. You would just replace C with the temperature in degrees Celsius, do the arithmetic, and then you would get the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. You see how that works? we're going to practice solving this equation on the left, this formula on the left. Right now, we're going to solve it for capital F. We know that it has to equal this over here, so we have an advantage because we know what we should end up with. But this will be a good example to illustrate solving formulas in general. So I have capital C equals 5/9 times the quantity F minus 32. Since I have a factor of 5/9, factor meaning that I'm multiplying 5/9 times an entire quantity, we could refer to F minus 32 as a binomial. The first step is to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 5/9, which is multiply both sides by 9/5. So I'll multiply the left-hand side by 9/5, so I get 9/5 C. And then I'll multiply the right-hand side by 9/5. I get 9/5 times 5/9 times the quantity F minus 32. And then I'll just rewrite the left-hand side, 9/5 times C. And what is 9/5 times 5/9? 1, right? Whenever you multiply a non-zero number by its reciprocal, the product is 1. But even if you don't remember, you could still get the right answer. 9 times 5 is 45 in the numerator. Divided by 5 times 9 is 45 in the denominator. 45 divided by 45 is 1. And 1 times F minus 32 is F minus 32. And now we're just one step away from solving for F. Now all we have to do is add 32 to both sides. So this is just, well, it's a linear equation in two variables. We've learned how to solve linear equations in one variable, or at least we went over those yesterday and also on Monday. This is a linear equation in two variables. Okay, and this result is equivalent to the one over here on the right. It's just that the terms are on opposite sides of the equation. Okay, so let's solve this equation up here. F equals 9/5 C plus 32. Let's solve for C. There's more than one way to do it, but often there's more convenient ways. So I think we should subtract 32 from both sides to start with. When we subtract 32 from both sides, we get F minus 32 equals 9/5 times C. We want to solve for C, so what's the next step? Yeah, we can multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 9/5. The reciprocal of 9/5 is 5/9. So make sure you're careful. The left-hand side is a binomial. You have to multiply every term by 5/9. So we can multiply 5/9 times the quantity F minus 32. And then 5/9 times 9/5 times C. And a non-zero number multiplied by its reciprocal is 1. So we just get 5/9 times the quantity F minus 32 equals C. Okay, that gives you a little bit of practice of solving a formula for a specified variable. Okay, we'll look at a number of formulas and then solve for specified variables. Solve each formula for the specified variable. Okay, solve the formula capital P equals 2 times L plus 2 times W for L. So I'll rewrite the formula in the open space. P equals 2 times L plus 2 times W. We want to solve for L. So first thing we'll do is subtract 2W from both sides. So when I subtract 2W from both sides, we'll get P minus 2W on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, we'll just be left with 2L. The next step, divide both sides by 2. You could multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 2. In other words, you could multiply both sides by 1/2. But it seems easier, since 2 is just a whole number, it seems easier just to divide both sides by 2. So I'll just do whatever is the easiest. So we have to divide the entire left-hand side by 2. So it's P minus 2W all divided by 2. And 2 times L divided by 2 is L. Can we do anything else to simplify? So I'm trying to lure you into doing something that's illegal, but it's a common mistake made by students. So I don't want to confuse you. This is a perfectly fine way to leave the result. A temptation or a misunderstanding that I've seen in past semesters is students canceling the 2's. But in this case, that's incorrect, because 2 is not a factor of capital P. So just to be safe, just leave it in this form. Okay, the next formula, solve the formula capital A equals 1/2 B times H for B. Okay, I'll rewrite the formula. So A equals 1/2 B times H. We want to solve for B. On the right-hand side, we have a numerical coefficient of 1/2. So we want to eliminate that first. So let's multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 1/2. The reciprocal of 1/2 is just 2. So let's multiply both sides by 2. And on the left-hand side, I get 2 times A. On the right-hand side, 2 times 1/2 times B times H. But 2 times 1/2 is 1, so I just get 1 times B times H. Okay, H just represents a number. So to solve for B, we just divide both sides by H. So divide both sides by H, 2A divided by H equals B times H divided by H. But H divided by H is 1. And so we get 2 times A over H equals B. Okay, so the original formula here in part B is the area of a triangle formula. 1/2 base times height is the area. Okay, in part C, solve the formula, the simple interest formula, solve the formula capital I equals capital P times R times T for R. So I'll rewrite the formula, I equals P times R times T. So we can just do this in one step. Since on the right-hand side I have P times R times T, I can just divide both sides by P times T all at once. So divide the left-hand side by P times T. Divide the right-hand side by P times T. Because P times R times T, that's just three factors, three terms that we are multiplying. And P divided by P is 1, and T divided by T is 1. And so I divided by P times T is equal to R. Okay, parts D and E we've already done. So we can take 10 seconds to solve each of those since we've done them before. Solve the formula capital F equals 9/5 C plus 32. Solve for C. What I hope that you'll get into the habit of doing is like on a test or a home quiz, leave the problem as stated alone. In other words, don't cross out or add something to the problem itself. So just leave that by itself, and then you can rewrite the formula in the space provided. So I'm going to rewrite the formula, F equals 9/5 C plus 32, and then we'll solve for C step by step. So first, subtract 32 from both sides, so we get F minus 32 equals 9/5 times C. Then multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 9/5, which is 5/9. So 5/9 times the quantity F minus 32 equals 5/9 times 9/5 times C. And 5/9 times 9/5 is 1, and 1 times C is C. So the final result, 5/9 times F minus 32 equals C. Okay, then the next formula, solve the formula C equals 5/9 times F, the quantity F minus 32. Solve for F. So rewrite the formula in the space provided. C equals 5/9 times F minus 32. Since on the right-hand side we have a factor of 5/9, we want to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 5/9, which is 9/5. So multiply both sides by 9/5. 9/5 times C equals 9/5 times 5/9 times the quantity F minus 32. 9/5 times 5/9 is 1, so we get 9/5 times C equals F minus 32. Since the factor outside of the parentheses simplifies to 1, we don't need the parentheses anymore. And then the last step, add 32 to both sides. So we get 9/5 times C plus 32 equals capital F. That's the final result on that one. Okay, this formula, capital V equals 1/3 times pi times r to the second times h. Solve for h. The Greek letter pi represents the number that's approximately 3.14159. So we want to solve for h. So what should we do first? Notice on the right-hand side, we have a numerical coefficient of 1/3. So the first thing that we can do is multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 1/3, which is 3. So multiply both sides by 3. Oh yeah, I need to follow my own instructions. I'll rewrite the formula. V equals 1/3 times pi times r to the second h. Then multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 1/3. So just multiply both sides by 3. So 3 times v equals 3/1 times 1/3 times pi r to the second h. So it's okay if you feel that you have sufficient experience, it's not really necessary to write 3/1 times 1/3 because we know it's just going to be a factor of 1. But I'm putting in that extra information now. So this will become 3v equals pi r to the second h. Okay, we want to solve for h, so we can just do it in one more step. Since on the right-hand side I have pi times r to the second times h, and I want to solve for h, I can do it if I just divide both sides by pi times r to the second. So I'll write a little bit of detail. 3v divided by pi r to the second. And on the right-hand side, pi r to the second h, also divided by pi r to the second. And on the right-hand side, we have factors from the numerator that cancel with the same factors in the denominator. Pi divided by pi is 1. R to the second divided by r to the second is 1. And so our final result is 3 times v divided by pi r to the second equals h. So do you know what this is a formula for? The capital V equals 1/3 times pi times r to the second times h. Okay, this is the formula for the volume of a right circular cone. I'll just say volume of a cone. So like an ice cream cone, an upside down ice cream cone looks something like this. So the bottom is, or the bottom of this cone is a circle. So that's supposed to be circular, and it has a radius r, and then the height is the distance from the tip of the cone to the base. That's the height. And so the volume in cubic units is 1/3 times pi times r to the second times h. That's the volume. Okay, let's move on to to some more examples. We'll look at some word problems for a few minutes. Okay, the word problems are usually more challenging. So use a formula to solve each word problem. The area of a triangle is 44 square feet, and the length of the triangle's base is 11 feet. Find the height of the triangle. So we have to identify what formula we're going to use. So the first thing we can do, since it's the area of a triangle, let's write down the area formula for a triangle. The area of a triangle is 1/2 times the base times the height. Hey, what are we given? We're given the area of the triangle. We're given that the area is 44 square feet. But in our work, we'll just write A equals 44 for now. We won't bother writing the square feet units because we're just doing computations right now. And then afterwards, when we get our final answer for the height, we'll include the units at that stage. So we're given the area, and what else are we given? We're given the base. So B is equal to 11 feet. And we want to find the height. So what we do next, we have a couple of options. We can first solve this formula for H, and then substitute A with 44 and B with 11. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is just to use this formula and right from the start, replace A with 44 and B with 11, and then do the arithmetic. Either way is okay, but if we solve the formula first, that might give us a little more practice solving formulas. So first, multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 1/2. I'll do a little abbreviating, so we get 2A equals 2 times 1/2 is 1, 1 times BH is BH. And then we want to solve for H, so just divide both sides by B. So the height is equal to 2 times A divided by B. And then we can replace capital A with 44. So in the numerator, we get 2 times 44. And in the denominator, we have 11. And we can see that 11 goes into 44 4 times exactly. So 11 goes into 11 once and into 44 4 times. And then 2 times 4 divided by 1 is 8. And now we can include the units. The height is 8 feet. Okay, the next problem, the amount of simple interest earned in 7 years at 4% per year is $5,480. Find the amount invested. Okay, so we'll write down the formula that we need for this one. I equals P times R times T. And we want to find the amount invested, which is capital P. We're given that the amount of simple interest earned, we're given that capital I is equal to $5,480, 5480. We're also given that the interest rate as a percent, it's 4%, so R is the decimal equivalent to 4%, which is 0.04. And the number of years is t equals 7. And we want to find what the initial amount invested was. So we can divide both sides by r times t. If we can do that first if you want. So the simple interest divided by r times t equals p. And then we substitute, we replace capital I with 5480, replace r with 0.04, and replace t with 7, and that's equal to p. You're allowed to use a scientific calculator, so I'll leave the rest of that for you to do using your calculator. Make sure that you know how to tell your calculator what to do. This problem, there's a calculator error that you can make if you're not careful. So on some calculators, if you were to divide 5480, if you divided it by 0.04 and then times 7, some calculators, if you key this in like this, it will divide 5480 by 0.04, but then it will multiply that quantity by 7 instead of dividing that quantity by 7. You see what I mean? And that will give you the incorrect answer. So you can avoid that if you put in parentheses, so it's 5480 divided by, in parentheses, this entire product, 0.04 times 7. So you can experiment with your calculator just to see what I'm talking about. Another way to avoid the error is to multiply 0.04 times 7 first. That's just 0.28, right? And then you can just divide 5480 by 0.28 directly, and that should get you the right result. Okay, the next one, the short leg of a right triangle is 3 inches, and the hypotenuse is 5 inches. Find the length of the long leg of the right triangle. So for the geometric problems, just drawing a diagram can help. So the short leg of a right triangle is 3 inches, and the length of the hypotenuse is 5 inches. Find the length of the long leg. So I'll just label the long leg with B. I could use different letter if I want. I just chose B. And then we remember the Pythagorean theorem. So I'll rewrite the Pythagorean theorem. So if we square the length of the hypotenuse, that's equal to the sum of the lengths of the 2 legs. So in this one, when we apply the Pythagorean theorem, we square 5, square the length of the hypotenuse, 5 squared, that's equal to 3 squared plus b squared. And then we do the arithmetic. 5 squared is 5 times 5, or 25. 3 squared is 9, 9 plus b squared. And then subtract 9 from both sides. 25 minus 9 is 16. 16 equals b to the second. Can you think of a number whose square is 16? Yeah, 4. We want the positive square root since we measure lengths of sides of triangles with positive numbers. So b equals 4. Okay, on this one, convert the temperature of 25 degrees Celsius to degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so we want the formula F equals, what is that formula? We've seen it a bunch of times. So the formula is F equals 9/5 C plus 32. So we're given that C equals 25. C equals 25. So we just replace C with 25 and do the arithmetic. So F equals 9/5 times 25. I'm going to write 25 as 25 over 1. So it looks like, so that we can see that we're, in effect, we're just multiplying two fractions. But we can get a cancellation before we do the multiplication. 5 goes into 5 once and into 25 5 times. So F equals 9 over 1 times 5 over 1. 9 times 5 is 45. And 45 plus 32 is 77. So in Canada, they would say 25 degrees Celsius. And just across the border, they would say 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, we're down to less than a minute. We didn't get to all of the problems. You can work on the remaining 4 problems. They're not too hard. Just use the appropriate formula. And I guess that's all for today. Let's see, online is Jessica Becker watching? Ariana Butler, Hai Dai Deng, Jose Favela, Rihanna. So Jacob Morgan. Anissa Fountain. Good. Oh yeah, the first Newton assignment was due last night. So you do get partial credit if you complete them late, if you didn't complete them already. But try to keep up with those.